Welcome to the third session of the day. Our focus is off-site fan experience, creating memories for a lifetime. In the last session, we discussed how innovation can provide a new experience for fans on-site at an event. And now this session will take us off-site. In an ever-evolving digital world, sport must embrace changes in technology. And this means interacting with fans away from traditional events. Today's fan experience reaches beyond traditional on-site events. How can the Aquatics family benefit from innovative approaches to draw new fans while interacting and engaging with current fans from around the world? This session will provide the unique opportunity to look at how aquatic events can use innovation and new technologies to enhance the experience of online and off-site audiences. I am happy to introduce to you each of our speakers today. Peter Hall, Head of Marketing and Broadcasting at Fina. Peter Diamond, Executive Vice President of Programming at NBC Olympics. Emma Mason, Head of Strategy and External Affairs at the World Federation of Sporting Goods. Thank you for joining me on the stage. I invite Peter Hall to the podium to start us off with the first presentation.
Thank you, Brenda. Hello, ni hao. I'm going to be talking around reaching out to fans. But before I start with that a little bit, I'm going to talk about Fina Broadcasting, about the developments we've made over the past decade or so, and about trends in viewing and event consumption. And I'm going to introduce you a little bit to the digital world. Fina's broadcasting work actually covers a lot of areas that you may not know about. And the basic starts with making broadcast arrangements around the world, and we currently have TV deals covering around 150 territories. Once we have our rights holders, we have to take care of them, and we have to make sure that we're giving them content that's the best we can and that they can use to bring in the audiences. And we do other things as well. We provide guidelines on broadcasting and streaming. We have a footage archive, and we manage licensing sales of that footage. And in the last year, we've, since 2017 in July, before the Budapest World Championships, we started our own Fina OTT platform called Fina TV, and we're also streaming our events here in China on our own Youku channel. Our broadcast strategy is very simple. We want to make our athletes and our sports the best looking they can be. And also, we want to maximize our exposure in every possible way. But we also use our broadcasting as a significant revenue source for Fina's activities. And now, more than ever, we have to be digital. Just a little rundown of some of the developments we've done over the past years, because together with our broadcasters and with our official partners like Omega, we're continually working to improve the content, the broadcast coverage, and the exposure of our events. We started in 2004 with very simplistic flags as virtual graphics in swimming. Since 2007 especially, we've revolutionized the sports presentation of our events, and I think that we're now one of the leading federations internationally for the way that we present our sport. We've also, in 2009 in Rome, we went for the first ever full HD production of the World Championships there. In 2011, we introduced new virtual graphics for diving. And most recently, I say, we've had our digital archive platform, which we created in 2015, and our Fina TV subscription-based service launched last year, and our Youku channel. But it doesn't matter how many spectators we have in our venues. and it doesn't even matter if the fan zone is packed as well. The reality is that the rest of the world is not here at the event, and our job is to reach them as well. I'm going to show you some global broadcast figures from Fina's last World Championships. Here we have Shanghai 2011, Barcelona in 2013, Kazan in 2015, and the last edition in Budapest. You can see from the data the top line and the number of broadcast hours, and this is dedicated coverage. That means live programming, delayed programming, repeats and highlights. You can see that there's a very strong increase upwards in the number of hours that our broadcasters are showing around the world. But if you look at the cumulative audience, and this includes the number of people who are watching in news and sports magazine coverage, you can see that we have a significant increase until the last edition in 2017, when there's a drop. And this drop is nothing new. But we have to take these figures with a little bit of caution because, as I mentioned, cumulative audience is including news coverage. And that's a significant amount of eyeballs, and that can cause huge fluctuations. But it's a trend that's going on around the world. And the Rio 2016 Olympic Games had a 30% decrease in TV viewership overall around the world. And here I have some figures from NBC, which Peter Diamond here will be familiar with. This is from their coverage of Rio 2016. Their average time, primetime TV audiences dropped to 25.4 million, well down on their London figures. But their live streaming, and they had an extensive live streaming offering, showed a massive increase, not only in the terms of number of users, with over 100 million unique users, but also in the amount of viewing time. So we have to ask the question, did NBC's American audience all go digital? And where do all our TV viewers go? I don't know if you recognize this guy. I'll give you a clue. It's not me, okay? It's not me. This isn't reality. There's no family like this that I know. Kids don't watch TV with their parents these days. I don't think this is reality either, because there's something missing. Nobody has one of these in their hands. I think this is more the society or the family life that most of us experience today. Except maybe your kids like mine are in the bedroom most of the time and not around the table with me and my wife. But that's the reality of the digital world. I have some data for you which shows the extent to which we're online. As you can see, 53% of the world's population has access online, and 68% have a mobile phone. 42% of the world's population are active on social media, and the majority of those are using their mobile phone to access that. To put those numbers into some kind of perspective, I'm going to show you some data related to an element that's actually essential to life, which being online isn't, and that's water. I have some data from the World Health Organization from 2015 that was published in 2018, January this year. There's currently 2.1 billion people around the world who are using contaminated water, and there's almost 1 billion who don't have a basic water supply. Some positive news, I guess. 89% of the population of the world has access within 30 minutes to a safe water supply, and 71% of us have a safe water supply to our home. But in a time of climate change, the worrying statistic is that 50% of the world's population in the next 6 years or so will be living in what they call a water-stressed area. So what this shows is that people are actually getting online around the world at a faster rate that we're giving the people without water, a safe water supply. But there's actually still some people in the world who don't have access to either water or the internet. And maybe you know these people because they've been in the news pretty recently. These are the North Sentinelese. They live on an island in the Bay of Bengal, and probably like me, you didn't know anything about them until 2 weeks ago. I can tell you that they live on an island and that they might therefore like swimming. They certainly like archery, and they certainly don't like visitors. So we're going to leave them in peace. This is the wide digital world that they don't know about and they don't need, but we cannot let escape us. Some of these things you may be already engaging in, and if you're not, you should be, and you should certainly be looking at. Things like e-ticketing, e-games and e-sports, which I think are going to be one of the most threatening, if not already one of the most threatening developments in the next years to activities, sports activities and other recreation. Live streaming of events, e-commerce, and applications. I'm sure most of you are using the Fina app and the Fina Convention app here. And then there are many other platforms as well, including Fina platforms like our own GMS system, our online e-learning platforms, and other things that you can do like SEO, search engine optimization, and CRM. So basically, to succeed, we need to have a digital baby to secure our future. There are lots of digital babies, social media babies. And there are lots of them that you might not even know about. Here in China, they have 3 very big ones, which are Weibo, WeChat, and Youku. And you need to be on these platforms as well if you have an interest in this marketplace. All these social media babies are different, but they also have a lot of things in common. And one of the first ones is that they need constant care and attention. They need the right food or content, and it has to be good, and you have to serve it up fast. Because if you don't do it, there'll be somebody else out there doing it for you, and the audience will go to them. And social media is growing all the time. It's developing continuously and changing. But you need to think, you have to remember that parenting isn't going to be cheap. But think of all the positives it will bring you. And try to avoid some of the pitfalls. Back in 1996, Bill Gates was a rich guy, and he wrote an essay about the internet, web pages, and he said, "Content is king," was the title of his essay. Not much changed. Bill Gates is still rich, and content is still king. But technology did change, and our social habits changed as well. One thing that will never change, though, is the excitement and passion that live sports events bring. And this is our unique advantage in the entertainment business that we're part of. Nobody can match the ability to see a live event. And this is our leverage in the marketplace that we have to use. Because today, it's live sports content that is king. So how do we know if we're really reaching the fans around the world? There's lots of KPIs. I think Joey this morning mentioned the number of followers of some people on Instagram, which we'll look at in a minute. That's nice to have lots of followers, but there are more important things. Are they seeing the pictures we post and watching the videos? Do they like them? Do they share them with their friends? And do they give comments back to us, positive or negative? These are what define our engagement rate, and that's what really counts. Are you engaging with your fans? I have a little bit of fun to finish one. I've got a few Instagram profiles for you, and we'll look at the engagement rates. I've got 5 massive stars, which you'll all be very familiar with. We have Tom Daly, who's posing there. Hopefully you have somebody else. Sarah Scherstrom, she's working out. Michael Phelps is posing. Chad, who's flying, as Chad does. And we have Kim Kardashian. She's not a swimmer. She's a reality star, which you can see from the pile of laundry on the bathroom floor there. So, who has the most followers of these people? Does anyone know? Who thinks? Kim. Yeah, she's right. Kim is the number one. Let's see the numbers. Sarah's got a lowly 186,000. She's like 184,000 more than me, but anyway. Chad, 192. Tom's doing pretty good, 2 million. And Michael, 3.3 still. But Kim Kardashian has 121 million. It's a lot. But let's see what their engagement rates are. You think Kim is also the most engaging of the 5? Here's some numbers. She has 1.63% engagement rate. So let's see if she's the highest. Michael has 2. And Tom has double that with 4. So the most engaging people are the 2 with the lowest numbers of followers. So we have Chad with 6.5, which is a high rate, and Sarah over 7%. So these are the guys who are connecting the most with their fans. So if you look at Kim, for example, she has 121 million fans, but 119 million of them don't even care about her posts. Okay, to finish, I just want to say that water is our world, but you have to be online if you want to swim in it. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Diamond to the podium to start his presentation.
Thank you very much for having me back on this panel. I've enjoyed being part of Fina conferences for many years, and I'm very glad to be with you here in China. Thanks to Fina and to our hosts in Hangzhou for their hospitality and their organization. I'd also like to say that it's a big thrill to be up here with Brenda. I watched her and covered her career for many, many years, and it's a great pleasure to have met you today for the first time. As part of this, I've received a few topics, so let me address them as best I can. I would like to start with the basics. Television. What are the key principles of presenting an event? The essential mission, but this applies no matter what medium, is to document the competition with the best possible cameras, graphics, and commentary. The second task is to enhance the basic coverage, the world feed, with the richest possible experience, once again, in all media. Let's start with the cameras. Everybody knows about the fixed cameras in the stands and the handhelds roaming the deck. They are now enhanced at major events with a variety of cameras. In swimming, the newest innovation is the 4-point cable camera. This camera provides an overhead front and behind view. For the Olympics, was first used in Rio. In addition, there are deck-level tracking cameras moving with the swimmers. They are now enhanced to provide a basic master shot, wide, and a tighter one from a second camera traveling along the deck with swimmers. And we, of course, have the underwater tracking camera looking up at the swimmers. That camera was first used in Barcelona in 1992. I don't know how many of you know that the inventor of that camera, called the MobiCam at the time, seems like a sort of old name, is a Philadelphia inventor named Garrett Brown. He won an Academy Award for his development of the Steadicam, a different camera, which is the gyroscopic mount that stills the lens even as the camera operator moves. Garrett also developed for Fina the dive camera for the 1996 Olympics. It follows the platform divers as they descend from the 10 meters to the water. I guess the point here is that aquatics coverage has been taken very seriously by absolute top people for 3 decades. If we don't develop and experiment, we don't progress. Fortunately, Fina has been a leader in innovation. In case you are curious about camera numbers, at least for swimming at the Olympics, in Rio, the host broadcaster used 30 cameras. My network, NBC, supplemented OBS with an additional 12. Having briefly addressed the essentials of television coverage, I would like to move to the next suggested topic. In terms of techniques to present aquatics in a more interesting way, there are 2 areas. The first is actually not technology. However, it is highly necessary across all Fina disciplines in all media. This is our constant mission to present the personality of the aquatics athletes through profiles, interviews, behind-the-scenes video, and all the other techniques that familiarize our viewers with athletes. In the United States, NBC is fortunate to be both the television partner of both Fina and USA Swimming, and we regularly telecast across 3 networks: NBC, NBC Sports Network, and the Olympic Channel. We also stream every second of video we receive from these events. But when we reach the World Championships, and especially the Olympics, we are drawing much larger than normal audiences, many of whom are not traditional sports television viewers. These viewers generally know at most 1 or 2 of the major stars, and for sure Kim Kardashian, but she's not swimming. This is why we take such diligent effort to produce extensive supplemental television and digital content. It is also why we are so dependent on Fina for increased access to the athletes. Very simply, we need to provide the best stories possible by taking viewers to places that spectators at the arena will never see. This is the essence of the off-site experience. The second aspect of the enhancement of the off-site experience does rest with technology. In this area, work with Fina has made aquatic sports among the leaders in technology-driven development. Peter actually talked about a few of these, but I'm going to mention them anyway because I intended to do so. On the television screen, broadcasters have developed enhanced graphics that lead to a clearer presentation and have been a model for the future. Lane introductions, world record splits, physical name display at the finish, and enhanced presentation of splits are all part of this. These innovations have made the viewing of swimming much easier and much more informative and much more satisfying because all the information is provided so promptly. Super slow motion cameras have been a major development, and in the future the possibility of viewers online selecting the camera from which they want to view a race could create an even more exciting viewer experience. The next frontier is, for lack of a better name, real-time technical data. Pulse rate, stroke rate, and analysis are just a few concepts that would greatly enhance the presentation of aquatics. I'm sure there are others, and everybody in this room could probably come up with other ways to enhance the presentation of swimming. We have spent most of today talking about swimming, but I would like to take a minute to discuss some developments in other Fina disciplines. Diving has had the dive cam since 1996. Follows the diver at the exact speed he or she is descending from the tower. There is also a frame-by-frame television analysis tool for diving that allows the viewer to see the synchronization in synchronized diving and the diver's form in the individual events. In synchronized swimming, we now see the superb water level camera that shows athletes above and below the water at the same time. And water polo coverage has used enhanced graphics and better cameras to provide a much improved viewer experience. But shouldn't we also have technology to show us how far a water polo swimmer swims during a match? And what analysis might this data provide? From a digital perspective, there is much that is and can be done. The digital audience is younger than the television audience, and we, of course, pay great attention to the younger consumers. They are our future. My network diligently streams every second of Fina competition that we can. As a company, we are already very much in the OTT business in a number of sports with our NBC Sports Gold. At the Olympics, we stream all competition to all viewing devices possible. As I mentioned, streaming of individual cameras is one thought for the future. In Rio, we were able to stream the call room camera full-time from swimming. It was from this camera that we saw the memorable LeClos Phelps moments. We have also presented highlights digitally. Well over 100 packages from Rio, from swimming, were available by the end of the games. Where is this all seen? Besides NBC sports sites, we work off-platform with a variety of providers, always controlling the rights ourselves. They include YouTube, Hulu, Facebook, and others. The selection of partners and nature of our partnerships depends on the business dynamic at the time. To elucidate Peter's comments somewhat, yes, television audiences are down somewhat. They are down across all properties, not just sports. But sports is very, very important live. It is unique live, and that is a unique quality of sports. And television at this point still amasses the largest audiences possible, and we still receive by far the greatest monetization from television. Really, the lesson from our point of view is that we need to be everywhere. We are in the digital business, we are of course in the television business, and we will watch as the market evolves and make the proper adjustments. The last point I've been asked to address is, what does this mean for national federations? I know national federations come in all sizes, so I will try to be as generic as possible. Here's what I would say. Establish a budget for media, television, streaming, or whatever. Remember that the goal, unless you are very fortunate and can monetize also, is to reach the largest possible audience. This is the single most important goal and should supersede profit as a motive. In the budget and planning of your exposure on a national level, remember that popularizing the athletes and celebrating their achievements are the main goals, especially in the very crowded sports viewing universe. The athletes and their stories are your path to success. Thanks very much for listening, and I look forward to the rest of the program.
Thank you, Mr. Diamond. And now I invite Ms. Mason up to the podium for her presentation.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Dear Fina members, dear delegates, dear guests. It's a great pleasure to be here with you this afternoon and to be sharing the stage with the two Peters. This is very definitely my first time at the Fina convention, but I'm really looking forward to sharing this experience with you. As it was said, my name is Emma Mason. I'm the Head of Strategic and External Affairs at the World Federation of the Sporting Goods Industry. It's a very long name, I'm sorry, but hopefully you all had some coffee after lunch so you can recall it. I'm here to talk to you about the off-site fan experience and the sporting goods industry perspective on that. So, to put it in another way, how the sporting goods industry and its products can help drive fan engagement remotely. We don't have a lot of time here today, so I'm going to stick to a very short agenda. I'm going to talk you through a little bit about our organization and why we're here talking to you about off-site fan engagement. Then take you through some examples of some sports that have already started to develop work with sporting goods products on fan engagement, some of the challenges that they've faced, and some of the opportunities or possibilities that I could see for Aquatics. So as I said, I work for the World Federation of the Sporting Goods Industry, WFSGI for short. we're the global industry representative for sporting goods companies. To put it in traditional terms or international federation terms, we're essentially the IF for sporting goods companies. We have a very similar structure, but instead of our members being from China, Scotland, or the USA, they're the companies like Adidas, Speedo, and Arena that are very well known to you. We have around about 300 direct members, which equates to about 70% of the sporting goods industry today. So I'm sure there may still be many of you who are sitting out there thinking, why is somebody from the sporting goods industry talking to me about fan engagement? And I'm actually quite glad that Peter Diamond mentioned the necessity or the interest in having additional data for your fan engagement. Because yes, the sporting goods industry has always invested time, money, and resource in developing products that make athletes go higher, faster, and stronger. They've worked with your athletes and with your sport for years. But what are we doing now to help you guys with data and fan engagement? So to check that everybody's still awake after lunch, I'm going to ask a question. Could everybody in the room who owns a mobile phone stand up? You on the stage too, please. Okay. And can you sit down if your phone is only analog? So if your phone cannot send emails or connect to social media, sit down. Okay, I saw people stand up at that stage. So if you look around the room, you can see, and I wish I had my phone on me, I don't, but you can see, you can sit down now. You can see that pretty much 99% of the people in this room own a mobile phone that's not only able to connect to the internet, but able to engage on social media and engage directly one-on-one with content. So mobile phones for sports have changed not just the way we consume, although broadcast is still big, it's changed the way we consume in terms of the method we're watching it, but also the type of data that people want. Consumers from the youth generation, they don't just want the speed that somebody went at, the power that they pushed off at, or the world record pace that they swam at. They want to know, what was that person feeling during the race? What was their heart rate? How can they connect more with the athletes? And as Peter said, create more stories about the athletes. So that's what I'm here to talk to you about today, is how the sporting goods industry can help with that. There's a quote here, and I'm not sure you'll be able to see it from so I'll read it out to you, by a lady called Christy Gale, who's the founder of Hypergolic Enterprises. And she said that the most robust fan engagement experiences of the future will incorporate player tracking data collected from athletes and even data from our fans to make athlete and fan interactions even more realistic. We're consistently looking for a different way in which we can engage our consumers and draw them to our sport to attract and retain fans. And when you think about it, alongside the stats that I've put at the bottom, these are for the World Economic Forum, and they're predictions for technology tipping points by 2025, that 90% of the world's population will be connected to the internet and smartphones. You saw here today that almost everybody in the room has the internet and a smartphone, and that 10% of people will be wearing clothes that are connected to the internet. Then you can really start to see how sporting goods products might change the type of data that is being provided to our broadcasters, to our live stream, and really see how we can engage deeper and further with our fan base. So, as I said, there have been some sports that have already trialed this. It's very what I would term early adopters, to use a technology phase, and it's certainly not widespread. But I've got an initial example here from American football where they have used sensors on the players' tops to connect it to a smartphone and to a fan's t-shirt. So the fan is able to experience real time, wherever they're sitting, real time what is happening on the pitch. Now, the technology team told me if I say I've got a short video to play, it's going to play, so I hope that's going to happen now.
Hey, I'm Billy Whitehouse from Wearable Experiments. Wearable Experiments design and build hardware, software and apparel. We're here on the field today because we're building this out for football in the US.
So on 3, we're going to try a rehearsal, okay? Caroline, just move a touch to your right. Perfect.
So as a wearable tech company, we've decided to use the skin as an interface, which means that we send emotions direct to the skin using haptic feedback. Our fan jersey connects you to the emotions of your favorite sports team.
You're able to feel all the positive things that are happening with your most favorite team live.
Pretty cool stuff. Whatever the football player feels, you'll feel. The vibration will happen on your jersey simultaneously with the player on the field. It's pretty nifty idea. I wish I thought of it.
So what happens is you select which team you want to follow inside the app. And then when you've selected the team, you get the sensations of what that team is going through, whether it's heartbeat or acceleration, or any sort of excitement that happens when they score a touchdown. You then feel that excitement live as the game is happening.
I'm Matt Davis with Bud Innovations. We're here in the immersion area of our Bud Light Hotel. We have wearable experiments here with us today. We have these jerseys that interact live with the game.
I've been a fan of football forever, and this is the first time I actually feel like I'm a part of the game with this fan jersey.
I know this is the future of fandom.
It really puts the consumer in the moment and allows us to leverage our brand in a way that we haven't before.
We see this fan jersey as the fourth dimension of entertainment, and we're really excited to be here in the US. If you want to know more, go to wearableexperiments.com.
So that's just one example of what American football are doing, but I've put another one up on the screen just to explain that there are other sports that are also experimenting with this. This example here, and I'm not sure how clear it is, but it's a t-shirt that is worn by a basketball player. And what basketball have experimented with is having not only sensors built into the top, but also having an embedded HD camera and microphone. So essentially the data or the stream that is provided to the broadcasters, to the social media feeds, is not only a player perspective cam, so they can see and hear what the player sees and hears while he's playing, but they also have the ability to transmit things like heart rate and breathing rate also to the feed to enhance what the fans are viewing. I mentioned that I wanted to take you through some of the challenges, and I think Peter Diamond perhaps touched on it just slightly in his speech, because there are some clear, when you experiment with new technologies, there are always challenges that you need to think about and overcome. So first, to take some of the general challenges, and one that is very clear that comes out of this, compared to data that is conveyed about the world record pace that a swimmer ran in, it's the fact that with technology, you're transmitting personal data. So health statistics are very clearly an athlete's personal data, and it could indicate that somebody's excited about a race, but it could also indicate a health problem. The second is the fact that whatever sport wants to experiment with these type of wearable technologies will likely need to adopt a rule and regulatory change. There's hardly any sports out there right now that actually have in place rules that would accommodate not only the personal data challenges, but also the equipment and apparel challenges to allow these types of products to be tested. And the third is one that is slightly less in the control of the federations and the athletes, and this is the development of 5G technology, so the 5th generation of connectivity. We've all been in sports stadiums or somewhere that's incredibly crowded and tried to send a text message and it's not gone through for hours. Think New Year's Eve, for example. Nobody can send a text message or call on New Year's Eve because everybody else is trying to access the servers at the same time. What 5G does is allow greater connectivity with more data at a faster bandwidth, so at a faster speed. And when 5G comes into play from a commercial perspective, it will really open up the opportunities for products like the sporting goods products to transmit more data towards the broadcast streams. The first two, I think it's important to note, they are challenges, but they are challenges that can be worked out. And basketball is a good example. So NBA, they have an agreement or collective bargaining agreement with their athletes. And for the first time, the next edition will be tackling wearable devices and personal health statistics and how that will be used, both from a broadcast perspective and from an athlete perspective. There's a couple of specific challenges I see that if Aquatics were to experiment with this, they would need to think about. The first is, of course, you have slightly less coverage than, let's say, American football, so slightly less material to play with. And the second is that obviously water polo aside, you largely don't have sporting goods equipment. You know, you really are just the athlete versus the water and versus his competitors. The third one that's not up there, because I couldn't think of a good image to represent it, is that whenever a product like this is developed, of course it has to not impede on performance. And it's such a fine balance with the sporting goods products that are created for swimmers, for water polo players, and for divers, that that type of thing would really take some research and development. Having said that, I do think that first of all, there are some existing sporting goods products in the aquatics market that could be interesting for the sport to experiment with. And I've put a few of them up here. So the first that came up on your left-hand side, this is actually a smart suit that's already in existence that provides tracking data. So this could be something that's quite interesting to see what type of additional data it could provide to broadcasters. The one on the right does a similar. It's a watch that's developed, and it also tracks the swimmer's performance in the water. The last one in the middle is a Bluetooth-based device that allows communication with the athletes while they're in the water. So there are some existing sporting goods products already in the aquatics world that could be experimented with to see what type of additional data it could provide. The alternative is to look at other sports and see what comparable products are being used that could also be used in aquatics. And water polo is a good example, because in football there's already a ball that's been developed which is full of sensors and that can tell you from the point of contact how hard the player hit it, from what angle they hit it at, and where it's likely to go in the net. So these types of things could be easily transferable to the sport of aquatics. And the other way to go for aquatic sports is to consider developing engaging products for your fan base. This is probably slightly easier than the athlete-based products, largely because it doesn't have the issue of personal data. So the example I put up on screen has actually been developed by football, and a Premier League football club, Manchester City in particular, where they've developed a fan-based wearable that allows for off-site engagement by consistently providing the wearer with live match reporting, updates and real-time stats, and breaking news and fan polls and quizzes. They've also built into their wearable on-site fan engagement, which allows them seamless ticket distribution and payments on site. Interestingly, it's only launched this year, they talked about developing location information about other fans, so fans can actually better connect with one another in stadium. So this is another example of a way in which a sport could start to embrace the type of data that we got from sporting goods products. And the last one, and it seems like myself and the Peters should have shared slides beforehand, is a closing thought from Bill Gates. He said that we always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years and underestimate the change that can occur in the next 10. And that you shouldn't let that allow yourself to be lulled into inaction. What I think that means in this context is what I've talked about up here and what the two Peters have talked about is really not that radical. We've talked about adding additional rich content to traditional mediums if we classify social media and live streaming now as being traditional. However, just around the corner is augmented reality, virtual reality, and these types of fan engagement. And when we get to that stage, that's really when we will be changing the ball. So isn't it better to, at this stage, experiment with the simpler, more straightforward products and at least try to move it forwards that little bit to engage our fans from now on? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Mason.